Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pharicode on Air. I'm Janet Mesh. I am the VP of Marketing for Pharicode, and I will be moderating today along with support from the rest of the marketing team here at Pharicode. And I'm very excited to introduce our presenters today. So we have Mike Desmond, who is Senior ServiceNow Architect for Pharicode, alongside Reggie Reed. He's the Client Director of IT Transformation for ServiceNow. And the webinar today will be all about how to achieve total asset visibility in ServiceNow. And before we dive in, just a couple little housekeeping things here and a little bit of brief information on Pharicode. So Pharicode is certified small business association and women-owned business. We provide cutting-edge technology services, managed services, staff augmentation to federal, state, and local organizations and the government. We're proud to have over 270 certifications, a variety of partnerships with technologies, specifically ServiceNow, and we're also a Microsoft Gold partner, and we're a CompTIA authorized trainer. So, of course, if you'd love to learn more about Pharicode and our services, you can reach out to our team, pharicode.com, connect with us on social media, specifically LinkedIn. If you're going online, you can definitely find us, and feel free to engage with us there as well. So I'm going to hand things over now to Mike Desmond and Reggie to kick things off. So they're going to load up and we're going to start the presentation.
Thank you so much, Janet, for the intro. This is Reggie Reed with ServiceNow, and just a little bit about my background. I'm currently the Client Director of IT Transformation, responsible for the U.S. Army and the Intel community. And I'd like to welcome all the attendees and explain that our IT transformation business unit for 2020 includes a solutions portfolio that includes IT operations management, IT business management, software asset management, DevOps. And with that, I will let Mike introduce himself, and then we'll kick things off.
Perfect. Yes, this is Mike Desmond. I am a senior ServiceNow architect, primarily focused on ITOM. Been doing engineering of data centers, data center applications, data center infrastructure, and data centers for a little over 20 years. So I come from the operations application architecture background. So obviously ITOM is a natural fit for me. And I've been architecting ITOM, ServiceNow-based ITOM solutions for about five or so years. So I have a very deep background in it, and look forward to going over all of these features and functions today.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you very much. So when we start talking about asset visibility, we like to focus on 4 use cases or challenges that we see across the commercial, federal, state, local government sectors. And our customers seem to all be at various maturity levels around asset visibility and how to identify not only their IT assets and infrastructure, but to make sense of the data and information that they have. We have so many new IT domains that we find most of our customers actually don't have complete visibility across their IT infrastructure. And I think the reason why is just because in this 21st century IT, you really have so much of your IT that is on-prem and running across different types of infrastructure, from on-prem to cloud. And if you don't have visibility, you can't really manage the health of this infrastructure and services. So we think that the very beginning of an IT transformation starts with, how do I look at all of my assets and figure out what I have? So we start by saying, what is total asset visibility? And from a ServiceNow perspective, we define it as just a complete view and understanding of your IT operations estate across your data centers and in one or more of your cloud providers. So from hardware assets to virtualization, storage, network, and of course, software, and all presented with a business service context. And the next big question is, why is it important? And from a federal perspective, responding to and protecting the needs of the mission and the warfighter is difficult when you lack visibility into IT demand and cost, risk, resources, et cetera. And of course, from a commercial perspective, it's managing and protecting your P&L and your shareholder value. So our customers across all these sectors tend to have 4 common use cases and initiatives, and we're going to talk about those in some detail today. But the first is really IT infrastructure modernization. We see and hear about that daily on the wire and all of the major publications. And it is important for digital transformation and kind of advancing how you deliver value to your end users. The second is cloud adoption, which is taken off really rapidly. We have so many cloud providers, both public and private. And the question becomes, how do you gain visibility into assets, applications, and business services that aren't running on-prem? So we'll talk about that. The third is innovation, AKA digital transformation. And the fourth is ongoing cyber initiatives, which we see billions of dollars spent yearly by most enterprises. And it's still an ongoing challenge and issue for customers. So at the core of all of these initiatives and use cases, it is a requirement to first gain complete visibility of your IT operations estate. And what makes it really interesting is we have new IT domains now, the platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, microservice, containerized environments, et cetera. So I'm going to do a handoff here to Mike, and we're going to kind of dive into these use cases and challenges.
Perfect, thank you. So to elaborate on what Reggie was speaking about, the visibility. So the way ServiceNow views it is to get to what I like to call the nirvana state of, your infrastructure is completely optimized. You have the ability to see everything from an asset business perspective, how everything is actually working to help your business grow and expand. It's good to get your visibility first, and visibility is what we're talking about today. The ability to see all of your assets and make all of the information that your company has actually work for your business. Because there's a lot of disparate sources of information that people have about the infrastructure, about the business, different tool sets. So the trick is trying to make all of that usable and visible to the business. So some of the use cases that we see in the marketplace that I see at clients all fall under the categories that you see here: your modernization, cloud, innovation, and cyber initiatives. So there's a lot of different initiatives that are going on in companies. It's anything from just trying to keep up with the technology changes. So introducing net new technologies, for example, DevOps or hyper converged microtransactions with Docker containers. Those are new technologies. Introducing that into a business or an environment will occasionally require new tool sets, because some of the existing tool sets that you have might not be able to gather the metrics that you need. And that's how you get I'll call the organic, disorganized growth, which will impact your business from a resource perspective, a cost, because you don't have insight into what applications are running where. Do they run in the cloud? I have no idea. So, the cloud adoption ties into modernization, as well as innovation and cyber initiatives. They kind of go hand in hand, and there's some overlap. So what I want to do is kind of show you how we can mitigate and help a lot of the issues that most companies have. I love this slide. Does this sound familiar? And everybody says yes, but I like to throw it out there anyway. This is what I will occasionally run into in some form or fashion at most clients. It's the manual inventory, so Excel documents with a list of servers and IP addresses which belongs to an application team. And then you've got someone who's responsible for software licensing, has no idea what's installed on which server. You have SecOps trying to understand which security patches are rolled out in the environment. And then you have asset purchasing, could be a manual process, occasionally is. So as you ingest hardware or software or assets into the environment, they get put in your data center, you have applications running on them. If you think about the hardware or software that is purchased, it can be purchased manually. Hardware can be purchased manually. It goes in the environment. I have no idea if and when the hardware is going to go off maintenance, what software is on it, what applications are on it. If it goes down, is that going to impact the business? Who's going to get called if and when something happens to that application or that hardware? Really don't have any insight into that. This is usually what I hear is, we have no idea. We want to charge back because we're seen as a money, just a money hole. We're supposed to support the company. We have no budget. They keep buying stuff. We have to support it. It's very difficult to support. We want to charge back, but we have no idea how. I have no idea where this information came in our CMDB. Our CMDB information is wrong. It's old. Or, hey, I want to go search for a server and I see there's 4 different entries for a server with the same name. Those are issues that we can help rectify by leveraging some of the features and functions that the platform has. And this is usually what I run into when it comes to the whole CMDB data sources. How does the CMDB get populated? How do we understand how to use it? What's the best way to use it? Because we have all of these different point tools, and what we don't want to do is get rid of all the stuff that we purchased. We rolled out. We have 70 different tools that monitor our data center, and that's great because each tool has a purpose. The trick is getting all of those tools, those disparate tools, to work together to give you something tangible, to make sense of it so you could actually act upon it, or maybe even get some proactive insight into something that might happen down the road. We can do that. So we could get rid of some of those point tools so we don't reinforce those silos, and we don't have to just rely on this small group who only knows about their stuff because they have that one tool. We could make that transparent and give you visibility into those tools. So one of the things that we could help get rid of and mitigate with greater visibility into your environment is get rid of the whole risk issue, especially when it comes to things like, in this example, this would be software audits. I actually have real life scenario in which a client was hit with a $3 million bill because a company came in and did an audit and just took their tool, threw it on the network, and then pulled back this information, which showed a report that the client had an extra 3,000 licenses deployed of their software in the environment the client didn't know. And that's obviously because it's very difficult to get an understanding, especially a real-time understanding on what's going on, what processes are running on each server. It's almost an impossibility to truly understand that, especially when you have larger environments, and most of your environments aren't in your data center four walls anymore. They're everywhere. So how do you get that information and pull it in and actually run a report and say, hey, what am I out of compliance with? I'm supposed to be at this level of release of service pack. How do you gain insight into that? Well, we can actually give you insight into software that's deployed and map that against which licenses you're allowed to have, so we can actually show which licenses are installed where and are you in compliance. This is one of my favorites. This is a cool little feature in which you can actually see what will happen, or it will tell you an impact and a root cause analysis if you were to put in a change request. So when you go in and put a change request and say, I want to do a change on this server, this application stack, or this switch, and we're going to take some downtime on Saturday, even if it's scheduled and everyone said okay, that's perfect. You could put it through. But what we do is it will take a look at, if this goes down, is this going to impact any services? Since we know about the relationships and what's running on which server, who owns it, who purchased it, which group does it belong to, we can actually notify them that a change is going to be made. And before we do that, before we even schedule it, it will show you an impact analysis and let you know, hey, if you do this, here's what's going to be impacted. These pieces of hardware or these business services. So you can actually be proactive, let the teams know that there's going to be change, or just not put that change through because you're unaware that you're going to impact various different teams. Slushing software spend is another great use case for visibility. So if there is an initiative to get your arms around what software, what are we licensed for, what's deployed, where can we save money, we have the ability to actually go in there and show you how much you could save by making changes to your licensing. You could see what has been deployed. You could actually reclaim licenses. So you can do license reclamation, so you don't have to spend incremental money in the next fiscal year, because you would be able to actually reclaim some of that. There's, as it states here, Gartner says that companies usually achieve around 30% savings once they actually just do an analysis and see where they can actually cut costs. There's a perfect example of taking a look at some of the reports that can be built. You could actually take a look at who's spending, which group is spending X amount of money on licenses that the company might already have. The group might be spending out of their own money because they didn't know that corporate had licenses. Or you could actually take a look and see that you have multiple applications doing the exact same thing. Why are we spending all this money on duplicate software that does the exact same thing? And there's actually a way that you could do take it the next step and just implement orchestration to do an actual reclamation of licensing. So this is a little technical, but just wanted to show you a little bit on the covers of, this is what actually gets launched if you want to reclaim underutilized licenses. So a script can be launched which will actually pull that back. So it doesn't require a lot of extra work for people doing the reclamation. It doesn't take a long time to do. Reggie, did you need to say something?
Hey, Mike, thanks. No, I just wanted to mention that on one of your earlier slides where you talk about silos, we see so many of our customers that for each group within an IT department, they have their own discovery tool. It may be an appliance or an agent-based tool. And you look across the enterprise and you see multiple discovery tools, but they're not connected. They don't talk to each other. And so each of these silos, if you will, these departments within IT continue to not be able to get accurate data and information near real time on their current state, on their IT assets. And so, Mike, you already made a great point that, you know, visibility, the outcomes you realize, is a major enabler for the use cases that we posted: the modernization, innovation, cyber, you know, spend analysis and real time software, hardware analysis, et cetera. And these are all very common use cases.
Exactly. Perfect. And this is my favorite of all time. So minimizing service outages. So once you have visibility, a true visibility into your environment, so you can see events that are coming in from your different tool sets that you already have in your environment. So going back to the point of having those multiple tools, that's great. We're not there to rip and replace any tools, applications that are already in the environment. What we do is we will ingest. So think of it as, we're a conduit, so we can ingest all these different sources of data and make sense of them. So we can take in information from all of your event tools. So SolarWinds, Splunk, et cetera, OMI, they all have events. Those are platforms that can collect, in which we can collect events from. We can ingest those. When we ingest the events, we can take a look at that data, figure out which configuration item in the CMDB it belongs to. We could see if it hits a threshold, and even if we get events for a server, let's say the server's name is XYZ, from one source, and we get an event about an application from another event tool, but we as ServiceNow know that that application that we got the event from that one tool, and the server that's having problems are the exact same configuration item. They're related because we know that that application runs on that server. We have the knowledge based on the information that we have that those two events that came in from two different sources on two different seemingly unrelated items, we know it's the same issue because we know that that application is running on that server that's having the issue because we leveraged discovery. So we went out and discovered and figured out that relationship. So when we get an event, we can actually trigger something saying, all right, we know that this server had this event, which runs this application, and it impacts this group, and it's owned by this other group. Hey, let's let these guys know that something's going on. So we could actually minimize service outages by both showing that there's issues before there's an outage, or there's an even cooler little feature function called anomaly detection, root cause analysis, that if we see trends of the same event occurring in a pattern over a certain period of time, we can actually begin to become proactive, if you will, and show you, hey, there's an anomaly and it looks as if there's a certain percentage chance that there's going to be an issue again at this point in time based on this information. So there you go, another really good use case for visibility is mitigation and minimizing service outages so it does not impact your business. Visibility into the cloud, actually getting information on what's going on in the cloud, which a lot of, it's kind of difficult to get insight into the cloud because each cloud provider, AWS, Azure, it's a little bit different. Billing's a little bit different. And how do you get your arms around that? Because there's so many different accounts, and there could be different groups within your organization which are just spinning up rogue VMs, shadow IT, or whatever you want to call it. How do you really know what's going on out there? So we can actually go out there and, but with the ability to tie into the API of the different providers, we could discover and pull back billing information, resource utilization, and show you the actual resource utilization, resource from a compute, ping power pipe, spend, all of those metrics we can pull in and give you insight into the relationships, how the data flows, how the applications work, all the way down to the spend of what's going on in the cloud. So, how does it get done? How does this secret sauce happen? What we do is, as I brought up a couple of times already, is think of it as ingestion, or working with the different teams and getting all these different pieces of information from your environment. So leveraging things like discovery and other data sources to populate the CMDB with good data. CMDB is at the foundation. That's the core. If you don't have a good CMDB at the foundation, if you don't have good data, anything built on top of it is going to fail, unfortunately, because you're basing all of your decisions from a business perspective on data that isn't valid. So you could be thinking you're making the right choice, saying, all right, we're going to take an outage, or planned or unplanned, on this server. If your data doesn't show that server, in this example, houses the financial application, and there's a dependency on it. If you take that server down, you potentially could be taking down a critical business service. And that's not a good thing. So you want to make sure your CMDB is fed with good discovery sources. Once we have the CMDB, good healthy CMDB in place, we could ingest the event sources of all the different events from the tools, gain insights as well as on the metrics of some of your application performance, tie into your cloud, work with, in this example, your DevOps team. So, your quick release development, integration into things like GitHub and the orchestration piece. We could actually show you what's going on in your environment from a business service, asset, you name it. We can actually give you reports and give you insight into how to effectively use the information in the CMDB. The CMDB needs to be healthy. There is something built into the platform. It's the CMDB, I call it the CMDB health check. So there's the CMDB health dashboard that will actually go through and has these scripts that run in the background and will actually tell you how sick or healthy the information is in your CMDB. So we can tell if there's any orphaned, and by orphan it means there's really no relationship to this CI. It's a good chance that there should be a relationship here, but there isn't. It might be broken. Stale data, things that have or have not been discovered. You could actually put some custom rules in place to show, to reflect some of your needs of your company. So you could put requirements in place saying every asset needs to have an asset owner. If it doesn't, make sure that it's shown is not complete. So you could actually customize it to show how you want your CMDB to look, and we could rate it that way. That way you can ensure that your CMDB is healthy as possible by leveraging the health dashboard. We need automated feed of input, with constant data to ensure that it's as up to date as possible, so we can make sure that you're making the right business decisions. So what we'll do is, leverage discovery, no agent. Discovery can be scheduled at any time, can be scheduled as frequently as infrequently as you want. And discovery does the population of all of those relationships and all of the different features that I had brought up previously. We can gather all that information, so we will have insight into the relationships applications. It's secure, and discovery can discover anything that I've talked about. Discovery can gather information on and populate the CMDB accordingly. So the trick is creating the near real-time CMDB, and it is populated again by discovery as well as service mapping. So discovery will go out and gather information about your network switches, applications, printers, almost anything that, except for mainframe, can be discovered. So we'll do the discovery from what they call the automated horizontal discovery. And then there's also, think of it as crazy advanced discovery, where service mapping takes a look at it from the top down. So from the end user perspective, how does this business service and the relationships map from the business service perspective? So we gather all that information and that tells us exactly how everything is working together. And building the application dependencies. So the applications themselves, when they're discovered on the configuration item. So when we go out and do discovery, we ask, let's say, a web server, hey, web server, what flavor of operating system are you? We'll gather that information and then say, all right, now that we know the operating system, are you virtualized, not virtualized? Are you VMware, AWS? What is running on you? What applications are you running? We'll gather that information on what applications are running and then continue to, think of it like 20 questions. We keep asking questions until we get all the answers that we want or need. So we'll figure out what applications are running. We'll then ask the follow-on questions. What are you connecting to, Mr. Application? What other pieces of infrastructure? We could take a look at the ports that it's communicating on, and we can go down that path and gather the infrastructure components that actually make up that application and track all of the dependencies. So we can we'll talk to VMware, we'll talk to the VMware host, we'll talk to the ESX servers, we'll talk to the network components, and we can then draw out the physical disk to which VMDK file, VMDK is a VMware term, it's an actual VMware file. Where does that reside? What VM is that running on? Who owns that application and what else is it related to? It's all drawn out by leveraging the application dependencies feature. And event-driven discovery, another neat little feature is we can actually get events sent to us from the cloud providers as well. So even if you don't have a monitoring tool for AWS or your infrastructure, we can still tie into the Azure or AWS and VMware APIs and actually have them send us events or alerts based on predetermined alert rules. So if we don't, if we didn't, let's say we didn't discover something in AWS because it was spun up, we could still get an event from it and run them. It's best if we go out and discover it as well. But in a perfect world, we can get events from a completely discovered third-party cloud provider and do that correlation and still show back something did happen in the cloud environment. So we can get events from the cloud without you even having a tool set that does event collection. And it updates the CMDB dynamically based on the events that come in. And discovering Kubernetes. So this is an example of the journey to future-proofing your environment, taking it to the next level to ensure that your business is keeping up with the technologies, the requirements for some of these net new applications. Do require some of the what I'll call bleeding edge or leading edge technologies, containerization. In this example, Kubernetes, we have the ability to tie into things like Docker, Kubernetes, any type of containerized services. We can go out and actually do discovery and populate the CMDB with the containerized services as well. And this plays very nicely with when it comes to things like DevOps, with the rapid deployment, spinning up and bringing down different resources in your environment. This is a great way to do that and gain insight into what's going on there. This is the slide that I usually spend some time on when speaking one-on-one with clients. Is, they say, all right, I want to get there. How do I get to Nirvana state? It's not going to happen in a week. There's a phased approach that should be done in order to get you from crawl, walk, and run. First thing you need to do is get a stable foundation. So CMDB stood up and healthy and populated with good, valid, recent data. So that's step one. So establishing your single system of record. So if we're ingesting multiple sources, your single source of record, people say, well, how do I get there? I have so many different sources. I'm going to get information because we have some information in this application that we want to ingest in the CMDB, and there might be some of the same data, but not exactly the same, and we want to ingest that. How are we going to mitigate duplicates? We can ingest the data and set what they call data source precedence. So when we get it in, we can choose which data source is your single record of truth for that field. So you can have multiple data sources, many different data sources, and as long as you go through and make sure that you set the data source precedence for that specific CR, that field, that's fine. That's what we need to do in order to get you to that state where you have a healthy discovery or a healthy CMDB by leveraging discovery and other data sources. Once you get that, there's your phase one. Then you could actually throw on things like event management, monitoring, do the root cause analysis, because that way you can ensure that you're not making what you think would be good decisions on bad data, because then they turn into bad decisions. So that's when you would do the phase two, implement some of the advanced functions to build onto phase one. Once you have phase two done, you can actually get insight, you can monitor, you know exactly what happens if something happens, and get into reactive mode. Phase three takes it to the whole next level. Is, all right, let's automate this. Something happens, maybe some of the things that are, happen frequently, let's restart a service, for example, because it goes down frequently. You could automate that. The ability to tie into your, do the cloud management and self-service. Those are things that you could do once you've got your phase one and phase two in place. You can go out and let people, pick whatever they want, because you can do chargeback, and you can track who utilizes what and enforce some of the rules that you could put in place to allow people to spin up their own environment if you want, and do a chargeback. So that's how you kind of get from your crawl, walk, run. Lastly, so once you get all of that done, you have visibility into your environment. You can now do a lot of different things and then share what you found, the information that you get, with people within your company. So that would be, anybody who's responsible for, SecOps. They want to see, hey, do we have any vulnerabilities? Well, we could, hey, we've done this discovery, we know software is installed. If you know what vulnerability or what patch level you need to be at, sure, let's run a report. Or you could take a look at utilization of resources by CPU and RAM for a certain group who has infrastructure in AWS. There's plenty of different things that you can do once you have visibility. And once you have it, share it, and then it gives you powerful business insights. You can make the right decisions. Gives you the ability to, save money, consolidate the view of your assets. It's amazing.
So thank you, Mike. That was excellent. Thanks, Reggie. Super informative. So we received a question. So I'll think that, it may have been covered a little bit, and Bill did a great job answering it for the attendee, but I think that everyone would love to hear this one. So the question was, which dashboards are available out of the box in ServiceNow to show cost savings on unused products?
So on any unused assets, there's hundreds of reports that come out of the box. Off the top of my head, there's a lot. I'd have to actually look, but so in the reporting, there's, like I said, there's a couple hundred different reports out of the box that you could use to analyze data, so you could actually say, I want to take a look at cost savings on X. It's almost like it's a very simple wizard. So if there wasn't a report that said, I want to report on cost savings on software or asset, that wasn't specific enough to what you're looking for, the wizard will actually take you through and say, I want to run I want to show a report on asset, and the asset has to be from this group or this company. And within 5 minutes, worst case scenario, you can have a customized report that you could put on your own dashboard and share, or just keep it to yourself or publish it. So I don't have a definitive answer.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think that, Mike, you would definitely be able to dive a little deeper, it sounds like, with the person who had that question or anyone else that does.
Sure. Thanks, Jen. I just want to thank all the participants, the attendees. I hope that we will be able to engage you in our follow-on briefing, which will probably happen next month, where we will add software asset management to the visibility story. And we have, just in terms of the visibility solution, a very broad range of customers who have successfully implemented, from, I think you noticed the comment on Mike's slide, from Raymond James, the large financial service provider, to large retail provider Walmart, to Chevron, to, in my space at ServiceNow, we have 12 of the 17 intel agencies who've also deployed this the visibility solution. So thanks again, and look forward to more interaction with the attendees on the next webinar.
And finally, just wanted to say thank you to Mike Desmond, Reggie Reef now for joining us. Excellent presentation. We really appreciate it. For anyone who has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Here's our information to access our website, so Pharicode.com, Pharicode On Air, and GuiFast On Air. You can reach out to us on social, get in contact with our team that way, or if you know anyone directly, we'd love to hear from you. So thank you all again for joining. We really appreciate it. We will be following up with this recording. You'll be able to watch it in your own time. You can refer to it again, share with your colleagues or anyone else that you think would find it interesting. So we will be following up in the next couple of days with that information and more information of our future webinars. Thank you, everyone.